In Time Management for Mortals, 4,000 Weeks, author Oliver Burkeman argues the importance of having a open and closed task list to decide exactly the items that you want to tackle on a daily basis and on a weekly basis, keeping in mind the finitude of your life and that the amount of work that you think you need to do is never ending, but life is. Notion has recently released a new version of buttons that were previously called template buttons, and the new buttons in Notion allow you to interact with your overall Notion system in a much more intentional and advanced way. There are mini automations within your Notion workspace that you can use to add pages to a database, for example, to insert simple blocks, exactly like you could do with the previous version of the template button, but you can also edit pages in bulk with the click of the button or show confirmation windows. Let's look at some use cases of the new Notion button and what you can do with it. And we are looking at two main examples in the context of the Time Management for Mortals template that I created some time ago, that we are just using as a sandbox to illustrate how you could use template buttons in a task management system, for example. But you can use template buttons in any other way that you see fit, because template buttons are just another building block in Notion, and the use can be as creative as you like within the constraints or the features that Notion provides right now within the new buttons. The two examples that we are looking at today is editing pages in bulk, and in this case we will update the status of a task from closed to open if it is not done, so if it matches a specific filter. And the second use case is to add default tasks in bulk to a Notion database with a click of the button instead of using recurring templates, for example. Let's get into it. This is a Notion template, and let's go into daily focus. And the first use case that we want to implement is updating the status of tasks in bulk with the click of a button. In particular, in this context, the principle that Oliver Burkeman shares in Time Management for Mortals is that you want to have two main task lists. That is a closed task list, like this one here, and an open task list, like this one here. And a closed task list consists of the items that you want to tackle right now and that you want to complete today. And as Burkeman suggests in his book, you don't want to keep that longer than 10 items. And an open task list is all the items that you have in mind. You can think of this as your inbox, where you want to capture things that you want to do or that you need to do and that are still in an open status because you haven't completely committed to completing them yet. And that's what the open list is. In this example, we want to turn all the closed task list items that have not been completed yet into open. So we want to switch the status through the click of a button in bulk. You can see that we have three statuses right here. And I will create a new block at the top of this page, and I will type /button. So we'll use the new button, and you can see the interface here where you would see this button model where you have steps, and these are the 5 steps that you can use in buttons, at least for now. You can insert blocks, to-do lists, sub-pages, toggles, and whatever. You can add pages to a database or to a page. You can edit pages in the database, matching some specific filters or all of them in bulk. And you can show a confirmation window that can make the user experience of people that are not very into Notion much more easy to digest, potentially. And you can open these specific pages. And within these steps, you can also reference previous steps dynamically, which is a very powerful feature. So in our example, we want to edit pages in, and here we will select the database. But before doing that, let's give a name to this button and an icon. So the name will be update status is the name. And for the icon, you can just use the button icon. So the first step that we have in this button is edit pages in. And here is where we can define what database we want to use for this action. So in select database, I can find the task database here at the very top, but if you can't find your database, you can just type the name of that database and it will show up here. And here we can define what pages do I want to edit. Is it all the pages in tasks, or does it need to match a filter? In our case, it needs to match a filter because it needs to be done is unchecked and status is closed. So when this filter is matched, then we want to edit a property. That is, we want to turn the status into open. That's it. That's what we want to do. In addition to that, let's add an additional step just to make sure that the user actually wants to do this action, and that is show a confirmation window. And here I can also update the exact message that I want displayed in that pop-up window. In this case, I'm just gonna keep, are you sure you wanna continue? That sounds good for this action. And those are the steps that we have. So click on done, and let's use this button now to update these tasks. So if I do update status, are you sure you want to continue? I will do continue, and you will see these tasks have disappeared from here, and I can find them in the open tasks list right here. And then the next day, I could come here and select which tasks I want to have closed in my list right there, and then work on this only. An additional use case of the new Notion buttons that we are looking at in this video is adding tasks in bulk. Let's create a new button here. And this step, in this case, if we assume we have 3 tasks that we want to create in bulk. So when we do add pages to, the database is still tasks. That's what we are using in this example, so let's stick with that. And here's where you can define the properties already that you want to assign to those tasks. So in our case, this could be workout, and we can decide what properties you want to have. So let's say status is open by default, and done will be unchecked, and that's okay. And let's assume we don't have a goal for this one. Next up, I will add an additional step, that is add page to, and again I will choose the exact same database, and then the task name will be the task number 2 in this case. And if I want to speed up my process, I can also click on the 3 dots and duplicate below, so that all these options are already selected, and I can just change the task name. And let's say this task is related to the goal 1. So these are the tasks that I can have, and keep in mind there is a limit for now in the Notion buttons. That is, you can create 10 steps in total. So for this use case, if you have more than 10 tasks, that might not be the best way to go for it. And an alternative way of creating default tasks, if you have recurring tasks, for example, can be to use the recurring templates within Notion. And you can watch a dedicated video that I filmed a few months ago on my channel, but this video focuses on template buttons. So I'm going to click on done, and let's test this out. So I will create default tasks, and they will end up here. So let's say we don't have anything right now, and if I click on this, we now have those tasks populated automatically. We have eat dinner, cook dinner, and workout, and those are my default tasks. And you can see whenever you have a button in Notion and you have an action, you can also reference previous steps. You can see here from this automation, if you want to reference the new page added in tasks, that is where you can define that. But it needs to make sense in the context that you are setting up the button at. In this example, if I'm trying to relate a goal to a task, if I reference the previous task, that doesn't make sense, because the previous task is not part of my goals database, it is part of my tasks database. So that relation would not work. And the logic that you use as a consequence need to make sense when you reference dynamically previous steps. And that is a wrap. Those are Notion buttons for now, recently released, fresh, many use cases that you can implement as creatively as you like within the constraints of Notion buttons as of today. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down below in the comments. You can find all relevant links in the description. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.